I'm really excited to be here today. I don't spend a lot of time outside my home these days. So this opportunity to speak with you is a really exciting one for me. So I want to thank you for that. And I want to thank you for all that you do to make the lives of our elder care partners better every day. Without you, well, we just wouldn't be. So I want to start off by telling you a few things about me. My background is nursing. And after completing my master's in community health education, I came to work at Sherbrooke Community Centre in Saskatoon. It was there that we discovered the philosophy of the Eden Alternative in 1998. Oh, there we go. Awesome. We had to go all the way down to St. Paul, Minnesota to take our Eden Associate training. And one of my blink moments was when I was sitting on the plane on the return trip home during an October blizzard, but that's another story for another time. I was sitting on the plane, exhausted because of all the information that had come into my head. And I sat there and I thought, this Eden Alternative philosophy is a model of healthy community. And even if I never went back to Sherbrooke or even worked in long-term care, that my life would be better because I understood this philosophy. It would benefit my family, it would benefit my community, and any work that I chose to do after that. But thankfully, I did go back to Sherbrooke Community Centre. And as Alethea said yesterday, Eden is the best thing that ever happened. And I couldn't agree more. I believe it to this day. So Sue Ellen Beatty and I, we share the role of regional coordinator for the Eden Alternative in Western Canada. So not only did we get to learn and grow the Eden Alternative at Sherbrooke Community Centre, but we got to share it, what we were learning, with so many others. We've been training Eden Associates for over 20 years now. And there are a few people at the conference today who we've had the great pleasure of having as participants in our education sessions, and some Eden educators as well. You're one of only 2 organizations in Western Canada that has actually trained Eden educators, and that's a marvelous thing. So the other thing I was excited to hear yesterday was that elder care partners and family care partners are now attending your trainings. And boy, I just think that makes it so real. I'm always so excited when we have those participants within our workshops, for sure. I have retired from my day job at Sherbrooke, but I continue to teach the philosophy of the Eden Alternative, as well as sitting as an international rep on the Eden Alternative Board of Directors. I'm very proud of the work all of you are doing, and at Sherbrooke still in Saskatoon and all throughout Western Canada. So these are crazy times. We all know that, for everyone. My challenges have been different than yours because I'm at home, only spending time with my family that are in my bubble, not even my whole family, because we're not all in the same bubble, and my cat, Sally. Sally can't say good morning today because she's had to go into the bedroom because she tends to want to rub up against everything and be a little bit of a nuisance on these kinds of calls. So Sally, I'll say hello for her today. I am very lonesome for my family at Sherbrooke. I may have retired from there, but hardly a week goes by that I don't have some excuse to go back so that I can spend time with my Eden family there, the staff, the elders, and the iGen kids. I think many of you know that Sherbrooke has been home to an intergenerational grade 6 class, I think for about 6 years now. And I was pretty sure that the pandemic was going to mean that iGen was going to have to be canceled for a year, but where there's a will, there's a way, and they're making it happen. I'm pretty amazed at what they're doing, and I'm so grateful for it. That the elders would miss the children just so much after having them a part of their life. Sue Ellen and all the staff at Sherbrooke want me to extend their best wishes and congratulations for a job well done making it this far. If only it was over, or at least we knew when the end was in sight, but we don't. And as one of my Eden mentors, Nancy Fox, she taught me a very valuable lesson. She said to look for the shiny. There are always silver linings. We just have to remember to look for them. One of my silver linings has been learning to do new things. And as an educator, that's kind of an important thing to me. Whoever thought we would have to use the word virtually as an adjective for all of the things that we're doing now. I have reunited with my siblings. Since our parents died, there's five of us. We don't get together all that often, but Zoom. Somehow we felt a need to be connected, and so I've used that and reunion with other family members as well. I even had a little high school reunion. Got an email from a high school friend saying there's a bunch of us getting together for a happy hour. Would you join us? So that was kind of a fun thing as well. I'm even doing my exercises classes on Zoom, and my Saturday morning coffee group meets virtually as well. So. It's been kind of an interesting thing. The other silver lining is that we've been asked for many, many years if we could put our classes online because of the cost of travel and accommodation and all those things. And now we're doing it. And as a matter of fact, a week from tomorrow, we'll be beginning our first online Certified Eden Associate training, and we have a couple of people from Connecting Care who are enrolled in that class. And so I'm very excited and we've also looked at the possibility of putting others of our classes online as well. I'd also let you know that if you go to edenalt.org, which is the website for the Eden Alternative internationally, but really houses all of the stuff that's going on in the U.S. They also have an online platform now called Evolve, and you can take on-demand courses through the Eden Evolve program. So I would encourage you to look for that, and I would encourage you to look for the shiny. So how can I help you today? I'm sure, like many, you're feeling exhausted. No one wrote a playbook about all this craziness. So in addition to doing the best we can, as Sue Ellen always says, laying the path as we walk, we also have to deal with all the crazy things that health authorities and governments keep demanding. And it's like trying to hit a moving target. Or in Eden language, it's creating frost. We've been working for years now to reduce what our co-founder, Dr. Bill Thomas, calls surplus safety. We know that trying to keep people safe at all costs has been a major contributor to loneliness, helplessness, and boredom, what Dr. Thomas calls the downside to risk. Now, this locking down we've been required to do is a complete contradiction for us. And if you'll bear with me, I'm going to share my screen and get that into there. So, what I want to talk to you today is, I think, what many of you may be feeling, which is crisis fatigue. Psychology Today journal defines it as a human response to unrelenting stress that can cause a person to feel physically numb or tired. The reason why we're all feeling emotionally overwhelmed. Hey, you've been in crisis mode for 7 months now. So they describe it as 4 stages. Stage 1 is the heroic stage. As we band together to figure out how to survive, in the early stages, the media was calling healthcare workers. I was on a few Eden Zoom happy hours, and I heard often that people didn't want to be, it wasn't that they didn't want to be called heroes, it was that they didn't feel like heroes. But certainly that's considered to be stage 1. The second stage is the honeymoon stage. We've had initial successes. We feel we're in the same boat as others. I know we're not all in the same boat, but I do believe we're in the same storm. The third stage is the disillusionment stage. We begin to feel physically and emotionally exhausted. People may be experiencing insomnia, oversleeping, lethargy, depression, anxiety, irritability, and or trouble making decisions. Hard thing for leaders for sure. It's called allostatic overload. It's that wear and tear, that hypervigilance that now turns into irritation or rage or despair. And finally, the last stage is fatigue, or as we often call it in healthcare, burnout. The human body cannot sustain high levels of stress for long periods of time. And this can cause a person to be easily triggered or completely withdrawn. It's also the stage where people are more likely to engage in risky behaviors, resulting in overdoses and suicide. So I'm going to encourage you to look after yourselves and each other before we burn out. As leaders, so many others are depending on you. So here are some self-care tips. And I want to say right from the top that some of these are easier said than done. So let's start with the first self-care tip. Cut out negative coping skills. They're sneaky because they seem like easy solutions, but they create bigger problems. A few examples are alcohol, drug use, and overspending, that online shopping we've been doing a little bit more of. You could likely name a few more. It's anything that really isn't good for you in the long run. They all seem like a good idea at the time until the negative consequences come. Number 1, cut out negative coping skills. Number 2, stick to a routine or try to stick to a routine. That's hard for me to do on any day, let alone during a pandemic. You might have to find a new routine. Routine and predictability create stability. Eat regularly, designate specific working hours, watching a TV show with your family. Be realistic and don't set your sights on a routine that's not achievable for you. The third self-care tip is to pay attention to the story you're telling yourself. Do you have that little tape that runs inside your head? I sure do. And sometimes that story inside our head isn't very nice. If only we could treat ourselves as well as we treat other people. So pay attention to the story you're telling. We can all get stuck in a negative narrative, which increases our feelings of hopelessness. Some of the things you might want to do to change that focus is to keep a daily gratitude journal. Listening to motivational videos. Have any of you seen the Sean Aker TED Talk on happiness? I must say that is one of the greatest motivational things that I can do for myself when I'm feeling down, is to listen to that tape, or it's actually on YouTube. But what's really important is to shift your story that's one that's more positive and more hopeful. The fourth self-care tip is to practice mindfulness. It's shown to improve the ability to cope with stress associated with crisis fatigue. Even a brief daily practice can be very helpful. There are lots of simple practices, and there's lots of YouTube videos that can help you with these kinds of things as well. Let's try a simple breathing method right now. It's called 4-7-8 breathe. And so I'm going to tell you what we're going to do, and then we'll actually go through and do it. So I'm going to ask you to sit with your back straight, place the tip of your tongue against the ridge of tissue just behind your upper teeth, and keep it there through the entire exercise. I'm going to ask you to exhale completely through your mouth, making a whoosh sound. Close your mouth and inhale quietly through your nose to a mental count of 4. Hold your breath for a count of 7. Exhale completely through your mouth, making a whoosh sound to a count of 8. That's considered to be one breath. Now you inhale again and repeat the cycle 3 more times for a total of 4 breaths. This is considered to be a natural tranquilizer, and I even know people who use it to fall asleep. You have to do this at your own speed. So we'll just go through one cycle just so you can get an idea of what to do. But I really encourage you to do this even several times a day if you're feeling very anxious. So I want you to sit with your back straight, get your tongue behind your front teeth on that little ridge. Now exhale completely through your mouth with a whoosh. Close your mouth, inhale quietly through your nose to a mental count of 4. Hold your breath for a count of 7. And exhale completely through your mouth, making a whoosh sound for a count of 8. I really think that that's a very helpful thing. I've actually used it myself to help me fall asleep. So practice mindfulness. Lots of different ways you can do that. The 5th self-care tip is to schedule self-care. Look after yourself before you're burned out. What makes you feel good? What helps you recharge? What are your simple pleasures? We talk a lot about the simple pleasures of our elders, but we need to think about our own because they certainly revitalize us as well. The 6th self-care tip is to let yourself grieve. We're experiencing many losses. Life before the pandemic, future plans canceled or postponed, safety, security, work-life balance. Crisis is normal. Crisis isn't normal. Grief is normal and needed. So don't avoid grief. Offer yourself compassion and validation. Support yourself as you would support others when they're grieving. And the 7th self-care tip is to pull in your support system. This is a time when we often push people away. Recognize who supports you, who knows you, who knows just the right thing to say, or do to show you empathy at a certain time. Don't expect one person to give you all the support that you need. There are the more people you have in your support system, the more likely you are to be supported in different ways when you need that. Partner up with others at work who understand the stresses that you're going through in the job right now. Don't overburden others who are having difficulty coping with their own situation. Sometimes being there for others turns out to be a good support for you. And remember, there's always counseling and employee and family assistance program. A friend of mine said that in the early stages of the pandemic, she went to her counselor and found out that her counselor had to go for counseling because she was having a hard time to cope. So it's not an unusual thing for us to need extra help. Sue Ellen Beatty, who is my partner in crime and co-regional coordinator, she's also the Chief Empowerment Officer at Sherbrooke Community Center. And she wanted me to bring you this message. She says, one of the most important things that she's doing every day is to boost people's spirits by showing them appreciation and humor. I know she's been having lots of virtual staff meetings, so the staff know that they're being supported every day. One of the things she's really good at is laughing in situations that, although they don't seem very funny now, in a few days or weeks or years' time, they will be very funny. And so she really encourages. I remember one time going through a really bad situation, and she said, I think we need to laugh about this. And I looked at her and I said, but it isn't funny. She said, it will be funny. And she was absolutely right. Another thing that leaders need to do is to calm anxiety. And we do that through educating. So I know that these 3 days that you're all spending at this virtual conference will be helping to calm your anxiety. And through giving hope, it's such an important thing for us to do every day. Because if the leader can't give hope, it will seem hopeless for everyone. And as soon as possible, we need to get back to focusing on creativity and innovation. But you know what? You guys are already doing that. I went to your website and had a look. And what did I see? I saw tailgate parties, photo contests, gardening, walking challenges, outdoor visits, video chats, and special ways of honoring those who have died. So good on you. You really are meeting the challenge every day and doing the things that Sue Ellen is encouraging you to do. Her final message is that leaders must always give hope. And I can't stress that enough. Sue Ellen is one of the wisest leaders I have ever had the good fortune to come into contact with. And so I think it really is important for us to take that message to heart. I also want to brag a little bit about an award that Sherbrooke received from the Eden Alternative. This is the first time this award has been given, and it's called the International Disruptor Award. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about why they received that award. Elders with dementia must be kept safe behind locked doors in secure neighborhoods. This is a common belief in many long-term care homes throughout North America, and for years it was practiced at Sherbrooke. That's changing thanks to the Dementia Inclusive Initiative Committee. In the past 18 months, managers and care staff have worked closely with elders and their families to open the doors of secure neighborhoods. These neighborhoods have traditionally kept elders from the greater community through locked doors in the name of safety. This surplus safety was robbing elders of living full and abundant lives. Things needed to change. This is a quote from Kim Schmidt, one of the senior leaders at Sherbrooke. We've learned from history that segregation is not good for people. We really feel that this model is one that we don't want to continue with. Kim is one of several managers and staff who are on the Dementia Inclusive Initiative Committee. The committee also has elders and family members on it. Together, they've worked tirelessly to balance the safety and security for elders with the freedom and connection of elders from these neighborhoods are seeking. The committee's work has been thorough. It heard from family members who were worried their loved ones would be at risk of leaving the building. It listened to staff who wanted to know how opening the doors would impact the care they provide to elders. It also worked closely with technology providers to install safety features in the building and distribute electronic bracelets for those elders who might be at risk of leaving. I actually think that this initiative has made Sherbrooke safer for everyone. The work also rustled feathers. When managers at the local health authority saw the article in the paper, they sent many anxious emails and phone calls wondering if Sherbrooke would still be accepting residents with dementia. Of course, they were still accepting residents with dementia, but would now be unlocking the doors in secure neighborhoods to provide the elders the opportunity for full, abundant life. One of the positive outcomes of Dementia Inclusive Initiative is how the greater community has come to know the elders from these neighborhoods. Elders are participating more in community events, like their International Coffee Club, and are making friends with staff and fellow elders throughout the building. Simply put, all of us are getting to know the elders from these neighborhoods because they're seeing them more. The initiative has also rallied the community around a common cause. Staff, families, and volunteers are working together to ensure success for our elders. And we've recently produced an educational video for our over 400 volunteers to help them understand how and why of the initiative. This was funded by a New Horizons grant, and I was really honored and excited to be invited back to be part of the committee that developed that video. Sherbrooke is proud of the work being done by the Dementia Inclusive Initiative Committee and hope it inspires other communities to think twice about secure neighborhoods. I'd like to finish up with a couple of stories. And some of you may have seen this on the internet. It's about green balloons. The teachers brought balloons to school. One was given to every student who had to inflate it, write their name on it, and throw it in the hallway. The teachers then mixed up all the balloons. The students were given 5 minutes to find their own balloon. Despite a hectic and frantic search, no one found their balloon. At that point, the teachers told the students to take the first balloon they found and hand it to the person whose name was written on it. Within 5 minutes, everyone had their own balloon. The teachers said, "These balloons are like happiness. We will never find it if everyone is looking for their own. But if we care about other people's happiness, we'll find ours too." I believe we could also use the story of the green balloons to show that when we all work together, we can achieve so much more than when we go it alone. Isn't that what true teamwork is? And finally, I'd like to tell you a story about spiders. It seemed like kind of fitting, seeing as how it's October. I recently heard the story of astronauts taking spiders up to the International Space Station to see how they would manage in a near zero gravity environment. Apparently, the first webs were very chaotic and didn't look like webs at all. But within a short period of time, they adapted. The new webs looked different, but they still spun their webs. What can we learn from this story? If we think of life with COVID-19 as going up in space, like the spiders, we need to learn how to live our lives in this new world. I personally don't want to go back to normal, whatever that is. There's been much talk of a new normal. How will we learn to live in this new normal? If we look to the teaching of the Eden alternative, we must remember to honor our elders because they are here to teach us. And as my good friend and colleague Sue Ellen Beatty always says, the secret sauce of Eden is to empower the elders. And to do that, we must empower those closest to them. I don't know what this new normal is going to be like, but I believe if we stay true to Eden and the wisdom of the elders, we can continue to create a world where they can be in control of their own life as much as possible. I believe that with this philosophy, we are better equipped to develop a new normal than most. And as always, we need to keep making this up as we go. So I'm going to come back to you. And why is it not happening? Well, there we go. Stop share. There we go. Sorry about that. I just was hitting the wrong button. So I'd like to leave you with a final message from our mentor and co-founder of the Eden Alternative, Dr. Bill Thomas. He teaches us that on this journey, we're going to need 3 things in large measure. The first is humility. And without humility, we're not able to admit our mistakes. And as his wife and co-founder, Jude Thomas, says, if we're not making mistakes, we're not doing this right. And actually, she also says, if Eden doesn't make you cry, you're not doing it right. So they certainly do acknowledge that it's very difficult work that we're doing. The second is forgiveness, because without forgiveness, it's not okay for us to try again and to make more mistakes. We wouldn't have the courage to try again. One of my favorite quotes is, "Forgiveness is a funny thing. It warms the heart and cools the sting." So, and let's remember that the first people that we need to learn to forgive is ourselves, for sure. And the third is patience. And they say that patience is the art of waiting in calmness. It's like being in the eye of the hurricane where that calm spot is. And it is so important that we are able to do that. So I think that I have come to the end of my message. And I once again want to thank you so much for having had this opportunity to speak with you. And I so want to just say, keep up the good work. You're such amazing people, and I look forward to the day that I can see you all in person again.